Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch and you want to inquire, reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Today we're discussing possibly the best all-around sports watch Cartier makes, rivaled in my opinion only by the current generation Santos Large. Launched in 2014 at SIHH, this is the Calibre de Cartier Diver, often simply known as the Cartier Diver. Stainless steel, 42 millimeters in diameter by only 11 millimeters thick. It's one of the thinnest dive watches on the market and measures 48.2 millimeters lug-to-lug with a 24 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Throw it on my wrist and you can see the first thing that you'll note is that it really is a curved case. So it wears more like a tonneau because it sort of cinches over and wraps around your wrist. Now on my wrist, again, 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see this down the barrel shot. It's nowhere near the edge of my wrist. It's a bit exaggerated from overhead. It looks wider than it is. It really fits perfectly. In terms of thickness, again, this is a great option if you want an all-around watch. As a Cartier, it's elegant. It could definitely be a dress watch, but it's definitely a sports watch as an ISO 6425 diver, and only 11 millimeters thick. It really will slide well underneath the sleeve. The timepiece, stainless steel with an ADLC bezel, includes a rubber strap. The strap sits in a little revetment or hollow within the case flank. That's how this watch wears so well. You can see how far inboard of the lugs it's been drilled, so the pivot point from side to side is so narrow that this watch is built for a tiny wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. Yes, even at 42 millimeters. Also, because it is somewhat countersunk into the side of the case, you can see that there's no daylight between case and strap, which is a very pleasing aesthetic. You'll also note that screws and bars are used to hold the strap in place. Very secure, much more so than spring bars. So this watch is robustly constructed. Even if that takes a little bit more money to build, it gives you peace of mind. A simple, no-nonsense, alternately polished and satin-finished Cartier pin buckle. One thoughtful refinement here, though, in addition to the double finish, you can see that the bridge is elevated over the prongs, so the strap sits in the buckle rather than underneath the buckle. That's a lot of attention to detail for a minor component, and continues on the case where you can see the lugs are stepped out from the case flank. This isn't a Seamaster or Submariner style dive watch. These lugs really do have their own sculptural form, and you can see them broken out from the case band to break up the mass of metal. Satin finish in profile, satin finish on the lug hoods as well as the hoods of the mid case. You can see there's a little polished bevel on the edge of each lug. The crown guards are actually fixed in place by screws, so if they ever got truly gnashed or mangled, they could be removed and replaced. There's a spinel, like a cut sapphire, inside the crown, which is faceted and polished. You can see that the guards themselves feature a combination of polish and then satin for contrast, and that the outer rim of the bezel is all of high polish with a sharp and pleasing knurling that's a pleasure to hold. The watch does feature a screw-down crown, 300-meter water resistance. As I mentioned earlier, it meets the 1996 to present ISO 6425 definition of a dive watch, so 300 meters rated and tested to 125% of its rated depth. Now the bezel is just wonderful. A piece of heaven and a paragon of precision. It feels as crisp and silky at the same time. That wonderful alchemy that previously only Grand Seiko and Rolex dive bezels had achieved, this is definitely on par with those as a true equal. ADLC, which is a sort of diamond-like carbon application on the bezel, so it's not quite as scratch resistant as ceramic, but it also doesn't risk shattering and fracturing like ceramic does. You can see that the bezel's slightly dished. The dial has a little striation outboard. The inner bezel has a distinct definition that's uncommon. Usually this would be a smooth surface in a normal watch, but every aspect of this design has been thoughtfully considered to set this watch apart. Cartier-style Roman numeral dial, and you can see that there's a polished frame for the triple date, the idea being that even if a hand is covering the current date, you can see the preceding and the succeeding date and gauge the correct current date. Small seconds, fully loomed by the way, and then we have broadsword hands at center which have been blackened, and if you look closely you can see that the dial has a sort of dropped and concentric grooved track underneath the hours. So a lot going on here. A very good looking watch in every regard. Underneath the case back, we have a Cartier manufacture caliber. This is the 1904 Petit Second manufacture Cartier. 48-hour power reserve, automatic winding, quick set date, stop seconds, 27 joules, beats weight at 8 beats per second. And of course, it's protected down to 300 meters. Dimensionally, it's a drop-in replacement for the ETA 2892A2. So they have identical dimensions, but with 48-hour power reserve, this one just has a little bit more autonomy. Reach out to tmosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Cartier Diver. I promised you a fully loomed sub-seconds, and in fact you get that. You can also see that the bezel pearl is exceptionally large and easy to spot for a quick 0 to 60 minute timing. Lights on or lights off, above or below the surface, dive bezels beat chronographs in my book 9 times out of 10 for timing anything.